Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Spoken, where there's sports unscripted. I'm your host, Terry Love, and to my right here, Mr. Lance Twidwell, and to my left, Mr. Derrick Willaims. By now, you guys should know their resume and so on and so forth. So let's get right into it. Who is the best sixth man in the league? Now, we're talking about NBA here. Who is the best sixth man in the league right now? Let's go with starting Lance.
You know, to me, you have to separate between both conferences. I think that
I'll take that.
I think James Harden has obviously solidified himself as the best in the West.
Right.
I think that he's shown that this guy literally can score over 20 a night and make an impact every single game, whether that's at home or away. I mean, this guy is an X factor every single night. So I think he's probably going to win it. But the guy that you cannot overlook is C.J. Watson. I think this guy has. Because we all know Derrick Rose is a great point guard. He's a great athlete, and he is obviously the biggest name in Chicago since Michael Jordan.
Right.
So this guy carries a lot of weight. As Derrick Rose's backup, you have a lot of pressure on you to be able to come on the court and literally just take what Derrick Rose did and just keep carrying it until he gets back on the court. The problem is that Derrick Rose has been not only missing minutes, he's been missing games.
Right.
So C.J. Watson's had to carry the load of this team for a long time, and he's done it with a lot of succession. So I think if it wasn't for James Harden, C.J. Watson would win this by a landslide. Those are my guys, but I think James Harden's going to win it.
Okay.
I think if C.J. Watson doesn't win, he has nobody to blame but Derrick Rose because he's been forced into a starting role, which just took him away from being a sixth man. But I think C.J. Watson is really he would be getting my vote. Harden, he definitely. They're both. They're both stars. They're both like six starting. You know, they're like it's like you got six starters on the floor. But obviously, if I had to give the edge, I'd give it to CJ because I've seen what he's done and stepped in while Derrick hasn't played, and the job he's done. I don't know if Harden could step in and maybe some nights CJ has carried the Bulls.
Right.
I don't know if James Harden can carry Oklahoma or for anything or carry any team or groceries or whatever.
All right. Let's go here for this questions and predictions of the conference finals now for both the East and the West. So let's start with you, Derrick. Who do you think is beating in the West?
Conference finals, I've been saying this since the Christmas Day game. Since the painful loss with the Bulls and the Lakers. I think out of the West, I picked the Lakers to represent the West, and I picked Chicago out of the East. And for obvious reasons, I think they are the two best teams when it comes down to getting into the playoffs, making a run. I think the Lakers will be very hard to match up when it comes to the playoffs. Playoffs are not moving at 100 miles an hour.
Right.
The game's going to be more of half-court settings, and if you're going to have half-court settings, you have to have the number one thing you have to have in half-court settings is low post scoring. Something Oklahoma does not have. And Tim Duncan being
one can say with things sitting with the Bulls. I mean, you got Boozer, and then you have Noah. I mean, Noah really doesn't.
But
he gets rebounds.
Yes, but also too, the team that they're going to probably have to play in the Eastern Conference Finals doesn't have any low post scoring either. So it's going to be pretty much even. I mean, because you're not going to get anything from Haslem. You're not going to get anything from Joel Anthony. So I mean, the Bulls have it easy that way, as far as because Miami's not blessed and gifted with low post scoring. Where in the West, Grizzlies are only ones really with maybe decent low post scoring that can kind of counter what the Lakers have.
Clippers a little bit.
The
Clippers a little bit. But DeAndre Jordan really doesn't score.
In the West, you would see the Lakers playing who in the Western Conference Finals?
In the Western Conference Finals, I believe it'll be Oklahoma.
Okay, and then the East is Miami and Chicago.
I think it's safe to say Miami and Chicago, and I also do have Chicago in 6.
Well, I obviously disagree with your Western pick. I don't think the Lakers are strong enough to make it. I thought initially when they got Ramon Sessions, this made this team immediately that much better because Derek Fisher, like you said earlier, 48 years old. That's a little bit of a stretch, but it's not that much of a stretch. He is old, and he needed to go, honestly. And yeah, there you go. And Ramon Sessions did bring a lot, but I think that naturally Kobe is going to limit what Sessions can do on the court. I think that he doesn't let Sessions really run that offense. And I don't think, even though Bynum has shown that you should run this offense through him, they don't do it enough. And I think that's going to bite them in the butt a little bit in the playoffs. I think the teams that make it out of the West, for me, is Oklahoma City play in the Western Conference Finals, Oklahoma City and the Memphis Grizzlies. And the reason why is because I think that these teams are young, aggressive, inspired, ready to win. The West is wide open. I think that their teams, I know the Spurs and Lakers are the teams that have been done that, and since, I think it's 2000, only 3 franchises have made it out of the West. I think that time is done. I think the Thunder are going to make it out of the West, but I think the Grizzlies give them a run, probably a 6 or 7 game series. And then out of the East, I know the Celtics have been playing well. I know that they have really shown some things, but I don't think that they're going to be able to hold on to that. I think their age is going to start to show now that Ray Allen's starting to break down a little bit. KG's playing inspired. I'm not really concerned about it. I don't think he'll play well. But Rajon Rondo not being, and we've talked about this, Rajon Rondo not being able to just take over a game on a scoring ability, and to my opinion, kind of just makes me a little concerned, you know. And
but he has an X factor though.
He does.
One game he can score 8 points. Next game he can score 32.
And he does.
And it could be the game that you just need to win the series.
Right, and I totally agree with that. But I just think if I'm going to sit here and say the Celtics are going to beat the Bulls and the Heat in a series, I don't think so. I think they could probably win a couple games. Yeah. So I think it's going to be the Bulls and Heat. Now, this is interesting with the Bulls and Heat when it comes to who I have. I naturally have the Heat coming out just because I think they're a better team, and they showed that last year when they had no depth whatsoever coming off the bench with Mike Miller injured, and that was pretty much all they had. They won in 5 games. So I think that they showed that the Bulls need more superstar presence, and when Derrick Rose has to hold the load.
Well, the interesting thing about the Bulls, though, is because of Derrick Rose's injury, like I know I was talking to Derrick about this before, is that they have more confidence now because they figure out we can win without Derrick Rose. So now we have our superstar on the court. Now we better than ever because if he's not scoring, if he gets double teamed, now you can have C.J. Watson probably step up. We can have Ding step up. Other people step up to it because they have confidence because they did it all season long. So there's nothing new there.
I think too. Like we talked about, I think actually we might not see it now. Nobody might see it. But Derrick Rose getting hurt and those guys having to play a lot was maybe a blessing in disguise for Chicago because a lot of those guys grew into their roles this year where they didn't even know their roles last year when they got to the they were just better than the teams that they beat. When they got to the Eastern Conference Finals where they really had to dig in and know your role, they didn't know. CJ didn't know who he was. He didn't know what he was supposed to do.
There's a lot of standing around waiting for Derrick Rose to do something.
And I will say this. Obviously, there is the dynamic of having a down low presence, for the Bulls. That is a serious advantage, and I will give them that. But they had that last year as well, and I didn't see it really change things. And if you even look, if you want to use this regular season for an example, if you watch the Bulls and the Heat in the close game, the team that came up biggest was the Heat. They made the key plays. They made the transitions. They made some changes that were much needed. And I think that when it comes down to crunch, I'm going to trust the Heat in the crunch, in the clutch times, more than I would trust the Bulls, just for the fact they have more options, and more star power. And I think that that's going to show coming later in the game. Because I think this won't be a 5-game series, regardless of which team wins. I think this does go 7. I think these teams will be very worn out, whichever one wins. And I think the Bulls have a good chance. I'm going to stick with the Heat, though, just for the fact they are deeper than they were last year. They won last year with pretty much simplicity. And they're now with the pressure of knowing we didn't win last year, and we got to do something this year to prove that we made the right decision playing together. They got to do something. So I'm sticking with that.
That's the next question I want to bring up too. Is that if Miami doesn't win this year, what do you do with the big 3? Do you break them up? Because I know we talked about before that you get a stat that Dwayne Wade, when he's off the court, is a better record that they have. He said 10-1.
Right, they're 10-1 without Dwayne Wade this year.
But are they really going to give away the guy who helped make their franchise?
I see. Here's the thing. This is where loyalty in sports doesn't really mean anything. You gotta make the moves sometimes that are tough to make. And I know that everybody's going to be mad at me. Dwayne Wade needs to be traded after this year if they don't win the finals.
I'll take him in Chicago. I'll tell you that. What do you think about that?
If they don't win the finals, don't be surprised if the big 3 broke up if they don't win the finals. I think they'll be the laughingstock of sports again. Which, if you can go back to right after the
like I said again,
if you go back to the finals last year, you can look on your social networks, your Facebook, and all that stuff, and look at the pictures they put up. And we're the laughingstock of sports.
And according to Derrick's sources, LeBron's soft. According to his sources.
Well, I mean, I don't want to talk about LeBron. My sources being soft. I think it's funny though, but I think they will be the laughingstock of sports once again because they were on stage talking about not 1, not 2, not 3, and it'll be 2 years.
I can appreciate confidence though.
Yeah, there's confidence, but then there's also you got to be realistic too. Championships just don't fall.
There's confidence and there's arrogance.
Yeah, because I mean, you can look at guys like Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, and the list goes on of superstars who played 15, 16 years in the league who didn't even win a championship. So the NBA just don't give away rings. You know what I mean? And for just to get up to not 1 or 2, you'll be 2 years removed from the decision, and you'll still be sitting on a donut, which people will start to question,
like that.
is this team capable of winning?
Okay, so one last question before we go. Who do you think should leave the Heat if they don't win this year?
Who do I think should leave the Heat if they don't win? That's a tough one.
You got
LeBron James.
Ooh, interesting.
Surprising.
We'll leave on that note here.
and not because he wouldn't have played well or this and that. Maybe he'll just figure out that this whole decision thing was just not a good fit.
It should be Dwayne Wade. It'll be
All right, thanks again for joining us on Spoken. I'm your host, Terry Love. To my right, Mr. Lance Twidwell. And to my left, Mr. Derrick Willaims. We're here on The Spoken, where it's sports unscripted. Thank you for your time.
Cleveland, keep your phone lines open.